right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Tennessee Tuesdays. I am flying solo. Flying solo for this one. Babs had something come up, so she is unavailable for this episode, which we explained this might happen. She may just be her and not me, and vice versa. You'll have both of us, or may have somebody else fill in. I don't know. We just want to stay consistent with it all. But welcome back. This is episode number 8, Ocho, and we are without tequila because it's awfully early when I'm recording this. Just got done with the gym. I know I probably would say it's never too early for tequila, but today just doesn't feel right. And with Babs not being here, my buddy to sample tequila with, we don't have tequila today, but that's all right. So we had a couple friends that have kids that are going to get their permit and a couple that were getting their license. And there was something that came up recently that I thought was pretty interesting. So I figured we'd talk about that little driver's license permit process really quick, because that might be useful to some people. So the new process, if your child, your teenager, is at that point to go get their permit, right? They're stoked. They're 15. Actually, I take that back, because kids nowadays are not stoked to go get their license or their permit at all. Like, it's one of the most disappointing things. There are kids that are 17 and are just getting their permit. They're not in a rush. They don't care. They're just like, that was all we looked forward to, was the minute you could go get that permit, start putting in the work, and then at 16 you were there on your birthday taking the driving test, getting your license, and you were free. You had a little bit of freedom. Like, you could just get behind that wheel and get away from your parents, get away from everybody. You had some freedom. Now kids don't care. So it seems. I know there's a lot of kids that do care still. Like, our girls loved it. They were there knocking on the door, ready to go. But there's some kids that don't. And if they are at that point where they're ready to get their permit, Tennessee teenagers 15 to 17 seeking to obtain their driver's license and are required to take a written test can now take that test online under proctor supervision, which is AKA the parent. So basically, the parent is registering themselves with Tennessee Homeland Security, and they become the test proctor for their child's written test at home. So, I mean, that's great, because Tennessee already has some driving issues, which we'll discuss later on a different episode, because I know Babs has some feelings on that too. I don't know if it's because there's only 6-7 million people in this state, so it stands out a little bit more, but let's just say it needs some work. So you register your info as the parent. You scan your ID, because the parents are registering on behalf of the kid. You take a selfie, and then you submit all your information, then it approves you. So basically, you're the proctor. You are supervising your child taking this written test. Your teenager is going to sit down, and they're going to have 60 minutes for 30 questions. And halfway through, if it passes that 30-minute mark, the parent has to go scan a QR code that's going to pop up. And that's just, kind of like their checks and balances thing. Like, hey, the parent's still here watching their kid take this test, which I see there's going to be, let's be honest, there's going to be some gaps here, right? Integrity doesn't really come to mind with a lot of parents when it comes to taking that extra step and watching over their child, because they're just so busy anymore. But we can get on that topic on another episode as well. So they're going to have 60 minutes, 30 questions. Both of the girls, well, Mackenzie not so much. Taylor freaked out. She started studying way before, which she didn't need to, and they both passed the first time. Not to say it's an easy test or a hard test, but it's just basic stuff. And as long as you know or have common sense, you'll be good. It's just all, again, it's all in wording. It's all the way they word these questions with any of these tests. So once they get that permit, then they'll be able to, go on their way throughout the program of the license. There's different tiers for licenses when it comes to Tennessee. You have intermediate licenses that are restricted, unrestricted. Then you get your general license and all that, which I'll go into here in a second. So if you take this test, you need an 80% to pass. If you fail it, you got to wait 24 hours for the retake, and you only get to take it 2 times online. If you fail both of those times, then you do have to go in person to take it. It didn't say after the second time you failed if you have to wait a certain period. I imagine you would. Now, if you want to get a motorcycle license, you do have to get the Class D license first before you can take the motorcycle license. And the Class D is available in English and Spanish, but the motorcycle is only available in English. And I kind of laughed at that. I thought it was kind of odd. So they're saying no one speaking Spanish rides motorcycles, I guess. Who knows? So you go in. Once you pass that, you got to go in. You get take your vision test as well as submit your 1010 form, I believe it is. It's basically a form from the school stating that you have satisfactory grades and attendance. We had a little bit of an issue with that when we first came out here for Mackenzie to get her permit because California did not have a form like that. And we were at the end of the school year. We had already, school was already done. We had already moved out here. So we were trying to backtrack during summer break and get this, and it didn't happen. So she actually had to start school, and then you had to wait a couple weeks before you could get a form from the principal, and then you could take that in and get your permit. So that's a good thing to know ahead of time if you're planning on moving from a different state, and you need to get this form taken care of ASAP. So the permit is similar to any other state from what I've seen and heard. You got to have someone over 21 in the front seat with you while you drive. You got to have it for at least 6 months, and you have to have documented 50 hours of driving. Once you turn 16, you can then go get your license as long as you have those items checked off. Now the license test, which you're going to go do the behind the wheel. Again, going back, this is why Tennessee has some issues with driving, because I think both girls were gone less than 5 minutes. Basically 4 right-hand turns and a honk. I know mine was 40-ish minutes, somewhere in there. It was terrifying. We had to get on the freeway and everything. You had to parallel park. I know we don't parallel park anymore because we just let the car do it for us. None of our cars do it, so we actually still parallel park, and we made the girls learn how. Because it's a nice thing to know just in case your car can't do it for you. But yeah, so that'll get them their restricted intermediate license. And basically that just means you can have one person in the car with you, and you can't drive between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. unless you're going to or from hunting. So then you could drive 4 to 6 in the morning. So yeah, that's because it's Tennessee. Hunt around here. So once you pass that, you can then get your unrestricted intermediate license at 17. Once you've held the restricted license for a year and you have no violations. I think it was no more than 2 seatbelt violations and no more than a certain amount of points on your record. And then at 18, you graduate up to your regular license and you're good to go. So that's kind of where Mackenzie's at now. When we initially got their permits, there was nothing added to the insurance. Our insurance didn't jump or anything. You didn't add them or anything. You just assumed liability. You signed a form in there saying that you're accepting all financial liability on their behalf. But once we added them to the insurance and they got their license at 16, ooh boy, wow, that the insurance jumped. Girl drivers, both girls are great drivers. Very proud of them. They do a good job. But yeah, girl drivers definitely take a hit on the insurance policy. So be ready for that one. They do have a hardship license. So if you're 14, you can apply for a hardship license. And I've known that to be where there's issues with the parent working and can't get them to school, so they're able to drive themselves and get the Class D license. I don't have too much info on that. The good thing is we have the internet, so if you need more information on that, you can use the internet to find it. But it's a very interesting process here in Tennessee as far as getting your permit and getting your license now that you can do some of these steps online. So, like I said, we will have another discussion on the drivers of Tennessee. And I'm not talking courteous and just, being respectful and that kind of thing, because it is a little bit slower back here. People like to take their time. It's not a racetrack. It's, people are courteous. They let you turn, when they're not supposed to. Like, just people are good people. But there are some people that just don't understand how to operate a motor vehicle on the road. And that's an issue. But we'll save that for another time when we have tequila and Babs, because I'm sure there will be some colorful conversations in there. So that is it for today. Hope y'all are enjoying, kicking off. You're having a good week. Just got off Memorial Day, the weekend. I hope y'all celebrated and had a good time. But most of all, I hope y'all remembered what you were celebrating and why we have this day and this weekend. It's not just for barbecues and lakes and parties and all that stuff. So hope you took some time to actually think about what that actually means. But I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. I'm sure Babs would say the same thing. You can follow us on all the social handles, Tennessee Tuesdays. Please give us a review, give us a share, give us a like. It all just helps the podcast bump up a little bit more. So that is it from East Tennessee. We appreciate y'all. See you on the next one.